so we are here with Ryan Hampton. Ryan, if you don't know him, is a phenomenal driver. Been drifting. What's your background?
Basically, I've done everything from professional road racing, Grand Am, IMSA, IRL. Did professional drifting. So kind of got a varied driving background.
So now your expertise is testing tires, grip, things like that. That's what we do, and amongst other things, destroying tires.
Yes, we do destroy a lot of tires here. Fortunately, that's my job. Nonetheless, what my position really is I'm a product evaluator, and that's doing all performance aspects of tire testing, including some of the vehicle dynamics testing that we do here as well.
Perfect. Which is why we brought you in. We wanted to evaluate our traction control system in the market that we're in, real high horsepower cars. The guys that are modifying them don't realize the benefit of traction control and what they can do. Everybody feels that they can outdrive the traction control. So obviously you're the guy that can answer that question. If anybody can outdrive it, you can outdrive it. So that's why we brought it to you. So when we started this, the first thing we did was take it out and with all the power, let you take it out on a 0 to 100 run. So walk me through that.
Okay, well basically on a 0 to 100 run, obviously we had no stability control in the vehicle, no traction control systems. Obviously I got into the throttle pretty good. I didn't do a clutch dump or a big giant burnout. I did a fairly calm, rolling, somewhat aggressive start from a stop. As soon as I got up into 6,000 RPM, obviously the rear tires were breaking loose at that point. For me as a driver, even I was having a difficult time trying to throttle back just a little bit to try to get that traction back into it. And then of course when you grab second gear and replant your foot into it after releasing the clutch, you once again had that big giant smoky burn wiggle, and I think you guys saw that, and you'll see that in the footage that you'll see the back end wiggle quite a bit. And then of course in third, by then it's kind of like you startle yourself a little bit in second gear, and then hit third, you're maybe a little more tepid. But by then you're also losing time.
Right. And so like obviously this car is 800 horsepower, nearly 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. Management wise, it's probably for a high torque, high horsepower car, it's probably a best case scenario. In other words, your throttle response is there, not like a turbo car where you're kind of in and out of it and you're waiting for power. So it's fairly manageable. But what did you find when we actually turned our traction control on compared to with it on?
Well, obviously once it's on, you don't get that sudden breakaway. You can feel the tires start to get a little bit more longitudinal motion as the thing's starting to grip and as you start to slip, but it never gets to that big breakaway point where you ever feel like the thing's becoming unstable. The vehicle's stable in a straight line the entire time. And you can still tell there's a little bit of slip there. You can actually feel that. You get the sensation and feedback that you can feel the slip, but it's not getting away from you.
Right. And so time differential between, well, we did it 3 different ways. We did all systems off, then we turned our traction control on, but left full boost through all 3 gears, which is what we did, and then the third time we did some power reduction in the lower gears to help maintain. So what did you feel when we made those changes, and what was the time steps from nothing to full control?
Okay. Well, from basically with going to the first stage of traction control where we still had full boost in all gears, it was still over 0.6 of a second faster from that 0 to 100 run, which is a significant amount of time.
And just from turning on the traction?
Just from turning, yes.
Right.
From full power to everything off to the first stage. Now the second stage, you could feel the slip, but it wasn't coming on as violent on and off, and especially in that lower RPM range and lower gear range, you weren't getting as much chatter. Basically, the vehicle was just accelerating hard. And obviously we're going to see that in the time as well. It's basically another almost 3/4 of a second came off of that time even. And I think it was more in the upper, as we started getting more in that higher RPM is where it seemed to be, because obviously with 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, it's going to break the rear tires loose. Even at 100 miles an hour, that car would break its rear end loose.
Right. So the total time difference from all off to everything on was
almost a full second.
It's almost a full second, 0 to 100. That's huge. And then the distance that it got there was how much?
Yes. Well, the first run that we did, we reached 100 miles an hour in, I believe it was 203 meters. And then in the first stage of traction control that we engaged, that then took it to 190 meters to reach 100 miles an hour. And then when we did the progressive boost, that took it all the way down to 175 meters to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, so like 30 meters quicker.
Yes,
that's
to 100.
A significant change.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right, so then we went over to the was a 50-meter circle?
Yep, 50-meter skid circle.
And then we did that without everything, and then with everything. And what did you find there?
Basically, what would happen is we were doing a roll into the throttle, basically somewhat an aggressive, as if we were going through a corner and then got aggressive on the throttle. Now, obviously, with all traction control and stability systems off, obviously it was very, very easy to generate a snap oversteer. And that wasn't just planning my throttle into it, that was rolling into the throttle aggressively. So it's not like I went from 20% throttle to 100.
You're trying to maintain as much acceleration as you can while you're turning.
Yes, while turning, exactly. We're doing a combined behavior in the vehicle. Now, obviously, you'll see with traction control off, you'll see that the breakaway happens much, much quicker. Now, when I say breakaway, that's how quickly the vehicle starts to yaw, or its yaw rate is very, very quick. Now, as soon as we started to turn on the stages of traction control, we obviously only did, I think, the first stage, correct?
Right, yep. Yeah,
So
we left the power.
it was still allowing 20%.
We're in one gear the whole time. So.
Yes. So what would happen is the vehicle would still basically exhibit some amount of breakaway, but it wasn't not near as sudden. The breakaway came on much more in a linear, kind of linear sense, because it would just gradually start to come out.
Controllable.
Yep, much more controllable. Like I said, if somebody gets excited with it, and I think even if we did a quick stab with the throttle while turning, I think it would allow a little bit of slip, and then it would quickly back itself off. Whereas with everything off,
you're going around.
You're going for Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah. So then after that one, we went around the road course, and so we did you like to drive with systems off, obviously.
Yeah.
You're a driver, so we did that first, right?
Yes.
And then after we did a couple laps there, what times were you running?
We were running about 1 minute, 10 seconds around our course here. Now, obviously, it's a very tight course, very short, short radius corners. But nonetheless, that's a very, very quick time to go around here. Now, what I saw, I ran 1 minute, 10 seconds with all systems on. Now, there's a specific corner that leads on to kind of our fastest straightaway. It's a very slow 90-degree corner. It's basically hard acceleration when you're exiting that corner. And with everything off, I mean, I got into the gas very, very aggressively. And the back end obviously broke loose very, very easily, and obviously would startle anybody. It almost caught me by surprise. Like, whoa, hey, this is a bit interesting. And then obviously with the traction control system on, I come out of that same corner and I can just plant my foot in the throttle. The thing does not exhibit any sort of breakaway or nasty characteristics. It's very linear in its acceleration at that point. Through some of the cornering, you could be a little bit more aggressive on the throttle. Like I said, when you've got 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, it comes on immediate. There is no delay. I found that you might get a little bit of slip. It's almost like we had in that corner in the skid circle, where you get a little bit of breakaway, but then it wouldn't get away from it, would not continue to go.
Right.
It's almost like these big V8 engines act like flywheel effects. When you get them spun up, and let's say you experience that breakaway, and you get 7,000 RPM and lots of wheel speed, it does not recover as quickly.
Right.
Your recovery time becomes much, much more. So I think a lot of people forget that happens. It's not like you snap out of the gas and immediately everything goes off.
Back to normal.
No, it doesn't happen. It has to wind itself down, especially, like you said, especially if you get the wheel speed way up really quick. It does not want to start generating lateral traction again for quite a while. So as you saw during the ride.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's always interesting to see what somebody else who really knows what they're doing can do in a car. And in the passenger seat, it's a little nerve-wracking, I gotta say.
It's not my car.
Not a big deal when we're in the Mustang. Not my car, not your car. But that one, I gotta drive back to Arizona. But man, I'll tell you what, it is impressive just being in the car and seeing how fast you can go. And these tires aren't race tires. They're street tires. They're good, sticky street tires. They're not race tires. Race tires, a lot more predictable. These, you got to deal with the recovery and the slip and everything else that happens on a regular street tire. But
yes, but I mean, this is a real world application. This is something that your customers could very well do.
Right.
Like I said, driving up a mountain road, getting maybe a little bit overzealous on the throttle. With your traction control system, it's probably going to be a bit more forgiving than, I can outdrive the traction control system and turning everything off. Honestly, I turn the same lap times with traction control on versus off, which says quite a bit.
Right.
I mean, I've done probably 5,000 to 6,000 laps out there, so it's not like I don't know where the place goes.
Right. So the $1 million question is, a driver as experienced as you, if this was your car, would you run the traction control system?
Even on a road course, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, obviously I have limited laps in the car, and maybe with a lot more laps, I might say, oh, I prefer it off. But for the time being, I can turn the same lap time. I can use a lot less tire. So even without running out of talent, you're basically going to be able to, even super talented, you're going to not run out of talent with the traction control.
Right.
You know, that little safety net is still there.
Right. And in straight line, with all the power, not even road racing, I mean, on the street in an uncontrolled environment.
Oh, that's even crazier. If you unleash this thing without any sort of traction control at 1,000 horsepower, you can find yourself getting in over your head very, very quickly.
Right.
And like I said, it seemed that out of the straight line acceleration, I prefer the progressive boost much more than I did even full boost in each gear.
Right.
It was just much more drivable. Its road manners were much better behaved.
Right. Very good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time with us.
No problem, Jason. Thanks for bringing us down here.
It was an eye opener, man. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun for me too. Not my car, not my tires. Definitely with that, I didn't turn in any quicker lap time. It was just more manageable.
Right.
It was better mannered. So for the coming, 110.
What's your record here?
107 in the Z06 with Michelin Pilot Super Sports. Like that blip on the throttle when I was downshifting.
What's that?
Didn't like the blip. Now this is where I felt the biggest difference. Yeah, I should be able to blip the throttle and have a brake coming there. That time it did it perfect. I wanted to just load it up. Yeah. He said it's like it's getting loaded up with gas and just kind of... Yeah, it's like when you snap out of it. Or if you try to